Hello guys, welcome to the Wars and Weapons channel. In my last video, I talked about the Christmas truce of 1914. It was a series of truces, unofficial truces, during World War I. Now, in this video, we're going to go and look into the actual World War I. Now, we're going to talk about some of the basic stuff about like how it started, some of the basic stuff that almost all of us know. Now, we're not going to go into some of the advanced details, but we might make a video about that later on. Anyway, let's start. Now, most of you might already say we all know how the World War I started. The Germans were the ones that started it. Of course, that's entirely wrong. The main reason that the First World War started is far more complicated than just that. It was basically that a Bosnian Serb called Gavrilo Princip decided that let's just screw the Austria-Hungarians and just went on and shot the heir in throne of Austria-Hungary, and who was at the time Franz Ferdinand, and of course killed him. Now the Austro-Hungarians of course didn't like this, so they decided that the Serbs were the ones that they committed the assassination, so we must go into war with them in order to take revenge. And of course Germans went behind them, like they were allied with them due to their long-lasting relationships from a long time ago. And the Russians went on, and due to the fact they were also allies to the Serbs, they went on to defend the Serbs. Now, the Britons and the Franks joined the wars later on. And then it became like an official world war after the Ottoman Empire joined. So basically it was the three nations of Ottoman Empire, German Empire, and Austria-Hungary against more nations of Russia, of course, Serbia, and France and Great Britain. Now, that was basically it. You may ask, why did I not call I didn't say the United States. The United States joined later on in the war. Like, this was at the very beginning of how the war started. The United States decided to join in later. Now, the Germans had a plan. The plan that had to work in order for the Germans to be victorious. Now, they were deciding that just like Napoleon in Waterloo, he was the plan of Napoleon in Battle of Waterloo, which was he was inevitably defeated, was to go on defeat the Britons and then go on defeat the Prussians separately. That's basically what the Germans were playing. They were trying to avoid going on and fighting on two fronts. So they decided, let's go to France and take France first, and then go to the Eastern Front with our stronger troops, due to the fact there will be no Western Front, so we can focus our entire forces in the Eastern Front. That plan could work, but it didn't, due to the fact they met heavy resistance at France. So they basically just went into France, and then the Great Britain and the France, they put up heavy fortifications, and they managed to hold the Germans for a long time, until basically the price of victory was too high. The Germans did win the area, though. They did manage to capture parts of France, until France was basically just weakened so much he could not participate in the war as much as he could. He could do like before he was weakened. So the Germans decided that now the Western Front is not clear. It's almost clear, but we still have to watch out for the Britons. So they could not bring all of their forces to the Eastern Front. So basically the ones that did go to the Eastern Front, they were mostly exhausted and they were demoralized because of the heavy casualties they took on the Eastern Front. Now, once they got to the Eastern Front, the Russians, just the Russian Bolsheviks or the communists, they had a revolution and they called back all of their troops and made peace with the Central Powers, which were basically, as I said, Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Ottoman Empire, and some of the other countries that did not act as much in the war. So the Russians decided to make peace with the Germans, with the fact that after a revolution, of course, there will be tons of new problems within a nation. So they had to call back all of their forces, bring their forces all back to Russia in order to fix their own problems. So the Germans used this opportunity and pulled all the soldiers to the Western Front. Now on the Western Front, though, America joined the war, and after America is on an island far away, so they can't bomb them, they can't harass them in any way. So America had a pretty large army without anyone trying to disrupt their construction of their armies. So they basically all marched towards towards the Western Front, and of course, with the help of the Britons and some of the French resistance, they managed to capture the Western Front until they went on, until they managed to reach Germany, and then they defeated the Germans. The Ottomans, on the other hand, they were only fighting with the Britons over some things, like such as the Britons were planning on taking Egypt due to the fact it had lots of oil, and the Ottomans were planning on taking that area as well because it had lots of oil. So there were lots of battles in northern Africa and Egypt region especially, and well, in Arabia, the revolution started under the command of T. Lawrence, which was successful, and they managed to run back the Ottomans, weakening them furthermore until they were almost on, like, they couldn't act anymore in the war. So then the British decided that now the Ottomans are weakened, it is our time to strike. So they gathered all of their forces and went to Gallipoli, which of course was a great defeat for the Britons. Now, of course, the Ottoman Empire was pretty weakened at the time and could not even stand on its feet, and it collapsed soon after. The Austro-Hungarians, they basically did not act as much due to the fact they were defeated pretty soon, and the Germans were basically the only ones that actually did anything in the World War, which is why most of us think that the Germans were the ones that started World War I, which, as I said, is entirely wrong. Now, as I said, it ended with the victory of the Allies, and they captured the German lands, and they forced them to sign the Treaty of Versailles, which was a pretty bad treaty for the Germans, but they had to sign it in order to prevent the destruction of their country. Now, the Russians actually didn't take any tribute from the Germans due to the fact they said that, like, we destroyed tons of countries, so we didn't pay tribute, so why should you? But the British, the Americans, and the French were not so kind. They said that they must pay for what they did. So the Germans basically had a lot of debt. Now, the Treaty of Versailles also stripped them from all of their African, like, territories, the fact, like, their settlements in Africa, and they basically distributed among French and England. So the Germans that were pretty weakened right now decide that what is the best way to pay our debt? It's, of course, making money. Now, how do you make money pretty fast? By printing it. Now, the Weimar Republic, which was basically the new Germany, decided to print tons of money, which made the Reichsmarks have a pretty high decrease in its value. So the Reichsmark was basically worth nothing. Like, you had to pay like an entire carriage of Reichsmarks in order to, like, get a bread for your morning breakfast. Now, in order to get that carriage, it's going to be a hell lot more Reichsmarks than what you can carry in that same carriage. So yeah, it was basically something like that. That's how bad the economy was. So they were trying to pay off their debts while dealing with an economical crisis inside Germany until Hitler came and, of course, fixed all of that. Now, as I talked about Hitler, let's speak about him during the First World War. Now, as we all know, the telephones were invented during the First World War. Of course, they were invented a hell lot before that. But the telephones at the time, they were not like our today's cell phones. You could not just talk to anyone wherever you want. You had to call them, and your calls would go through wires. Now, these wires were pretty like fragile, and it was pretty hard to set them up, especially in the harsh conditions of battles, especially the First World War, which there was tons of artillery fire, mines, and all that thing. The people would not go through the problems of wiring their telephones to the fronts, and so that like some soldier just passes by and then, like, sees the telephone wire and then just cuts it, and, like, all of their hard work will be nothing. So they decide that what they need to do, it's messages, of course. So Hitler was basically a pretty famous messenger for the German army because he was trying to study at a university, which the only condition he could actually go into the university was by getting a scholarship, which in order to get the scholarship, he had to join the army. Now, he did, and he was basically a pretty agile and strong messenger in the German fronts. Anyway, we talked about most of the basic stuff about World War I. I'll make sure to try to make a video about it later on and cover it more in details. Anyway, Thank you for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the war bell to be notified of the rest of the wars that will occur on the channel later. Thank you for watching again. Now I'm not going to say goodbye because I want to talk to you about the channel. Now I will leave a vote about this because I want to make the channel a multi-niche channel, meaning that it will not be only historical content. You might see me play games. I have tons of memes stored in my gallery, so you might get a chance to see all of those. And yeah, it's basically a multi-niche channel. It's basically a kind of channel that uploads all kinds of content. So I was trying to see if, in order to expand our community, we need to make our channel fulfill the needs of more of the people, because most of the people load YouTube for fun. Most don't, not education. So that's basically what I wanted to talk to you about. I will leave a vote about this, so choose carefully, because what you will choose will affect you and not me. Anyway, I think the video is pretty long. Make sure to, as I said, like the video, subscribe, and ring the war bell to be notified of the rest of the wars that will occur on the channel later. Thank you for watching again, and stand by for the next video.